and welcome to the Dream Real Podcast. This is the place if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in New York real estate. Before we get started, make sure that you like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Don't want you to miss an episode as we bring you great content. And today I am with Lester Lynn of Liberty Land Abstract. Lester, thanks for joining.
Thank you. You're amazing. This is really cool that you give a platform for people to do this. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. No, it's been fun. We get to have great conversations, make great connections, and introduce our audience to folks that are getting it done.
Thanks, Jason.
And you are in a very important field of the real estate transaction, not quite seen so often.
That's right.
It's more somewhat behind the scenes, but very important. So we'll dive into that in a second. You're obviously in the title space. But before we jump into the how-tos and the whys, let's talk about you. Give a sense of your background, maybe how you got into the industry, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. So my parents are from Taiwan. We came here in the 1980s. They came on a tour bus and then they ran to live the American dream. And when they did,
I just had a visual of one of those the red buses going through New York City, and then just
they were supposed to be on like some kind of a I don't know what it was. They had told me it was like a tour bus or something, which is a very common immigrant story, right? So anyway, we wanted to really live the American dream, and my parents were from Taiwan, and English wasn't their first language. Obviously, English is my third language. So just really understanding how to even purchase a property was really hard for them. The stress about it really gave my mother and my father a lot of conflict at home. And I remember even through the process of buying a property or even understanding how to do that, my mom went through so many miscarriages specifically because of that. My dad...
Just from the stress of everything.
Absolutely. Okay. There was a story where she tried to jump off a bridge in Elmhurst because of the stress of property. How does mortgage work? Not knowing where to go because it was a very American thing.
Just imagine that for a second.
Yeah.
You're here. How long were they here before they, let's just say, decided to stay?
I would say since till 8 years old, so 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so they came to the States in the 1980s, renting in Woodside in Queens. And then by my 8th year, then they were trying to purchase.
Got it. Got it.
And both of them were just very hardworking people. My mom worked in a Asian clothes factory, and my dad was a truck driver. So the amount of money that they were making wasn't really enough, which is why trying to understand how to borrow money, where to go for that, even an attorney, title insurance, forget it. There was not even an Asian word for title insurance. We don't have that back in Taiwan.
I was going to say, you go decades later,
right.
and we could talk about real estate transactions all day long. They're complex as it is, let alone trying to inject yourself into a new culture and then figure out how to do this, right?
Absolutely.
Wow.
We seriously don't even have the language for that. Because we don't have it back in Taiwan or people in Asian countries or minority countries, developing countries. There's no such thing as title insurance. So forget about even using or finding that word in Chinese to say, I need to purchase title insurance. Anyway, so when they did, the stress about it was so difficult because all of a sudden you got to find where the money should go and the cash that they had and how to put it into a bank. And do you trust the bank? All of this mental stress really caused a lot. On the family.
But even what you just said, do you trust the bank? I mean, for us that, obviously banking is an everyday part of business here in life. But if you come from an area of the world where you don't have, the FDIC insurance and all that stuff, I'm sure that could be very stressful.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
And this is money that they made while they're in the States. So it's like, well, what's going to happen to the money that we made for the family? Will the Americans take it from us? That's their fear. So going through that process, I just remember there was so much problems at home. And my parents were, especially my dad, he was a captain of the army in Taiwan. So he was extremely abusive to my brother and I.
Oh, wow.
And when I talk about abuse, I mean there's trauma there. Just so that we can be tough minority men so that we can make it here.
Got it.
So all of that came out during the stress of purchasing a property because it was money. What's going to happen to them if they lose all their money? They don't know how to purchase property. The stress of their family back in Taiwan wondering, hey, are you going to live the American life or not? And they're waiting to see when my parents are going to buy a property.
Yeah, home ownership is part of the American dream, which is honestly a big catalyst for what we do here. The dream is real. We want people to know it's a real thing. It's real.
That's right.
So it's there, but the how to do it. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think the dream is. I think this podcast has been great because you really do show the genuineness of people and their industry and what they do. So it's not just the fancy reality shows of when you purchase property, like Selling Sunset or Manhattan. No, that is like a wonderful 1%.
Right, where they look at 3 and they have to choose one. And
absolutely, it's like
everything's got to fit in 32 minutes or 26 minutes, including it.
That's not completely real.
No,
so this is real. I think when you have this, this is where people get to talk about the realness of trying to pursue that dream. So I really appreciate that you give me at least this platform to talk about this. But absolutely, that's the stress that we had to endure with our family. And therefore, I remember just growing up, I'm going, I really want to understand the process because it's not just my parents. It was their community members from Taiwan trying to figure this out. People trying to make the American dream, but they still want to buy property because that's part of the American dream.
So you being here in America looked and said, you see, obviously there's a system in place, and people are completing transactions every single day. So it's a matter of how do we learn this so it's not such a big barrier? Am I hearing you correctly?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's not just for minorities now. Now I'm going, wow, even people, I teach a lot of high school students. A lot of my other things is like, starting businesses for the neighborhood. I'm very community centric. And I'm realizing even the American people here don't know what title insurance is because they go to closing and they pay this bill to ABC Title Insurance.
Right.
And they're like, I didn't even get to choose what is this?
Yeah, and it seems like because there are line items that seem inconsequential, but title insurance title in general is not. So before we even go there, so how do you make the transition from what we just talked about to saying, I want to be in this particular area of real estate?
Yeah, well, can I tell you and be honest? I actually wanted to be a counselor first when I graduated from work.
So like a mental health counselor?
Yeah. Okay. So I am, I finally got to, do all of my certificates and just really be very focused on childhood trauma and how that shapes the neighborhood.
Okay.
So I live in a particular area in Queens that has a lot of that, and therefore your neighborhood is an expression of the trauma.
So this is something that you do as well.
Right. That's really where my passion is. Now that Liberty Land is on its own, it's so huge. I mean, we insure the most in New York State on The Real Deal. We are always on news. Like it's a blessing. So when you search us up, it's always going to come up as the most transactions. So I would say we're more like a home brand where people go to. But yes, before this, it was a lot of, I want to work on marriage counseling and how to work with kids and how that goes into conflict with their relationships and how that works with their neighborhoods. Then my brother, who was already an agent at the time, my brother's Carl, so we started Liberty Land together. He brought me up to his bedroom. I love talking about this story. He brought me up to his room, and I was 18 years old. He said, look, think about another opportunity besides counseling. And he took out a shoebox. And inside the shoebox were tens of thousands of dollars in cash, wrapped in rubber band. And he laid it on the carpet. He said, Lester, all this could be yours if you come and join me in real estate. I felt like I was being tempted into the dark side of the world.
I was going to say, wow, there's a few stories like that out there.
I was like, oh my goodness. And I looked at it and I went, okay, let me do this.
Yeah, that's all this could be yours. At 18 years old,
right?
A bunch of cash.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So then I went into title insurance, and we started.
Now, did you know he was in title insurance, or are you thinking to yourself like, "What is my brother in?"
I just thought this is so cool, So then I went into it.
You thought you were entering a crime family or something like that. Yeah.
I mean, he would never do that.
No, I know.
I'm like, I would love to know what this industry is.
It just seems like it's out of a movie or something. Yeah.
It was so mafia-like. I swear it was like a mafia movie.
Making you an offer you can't refuse,
So then I said, sure, I'll do it, So finished college, and then I went right to wherever he was doing. So he already was in real estate, and then we started a company right during the mortgage crisis. However, because I went to Baruch, the business school in the city, they were like, you always start a company during the low so that you ride the wave when it comes back. And I was like, Carl, we need to do it now. So then we did it with all the experience that we learned, So we started the company, and of course, our clients were all mainly the minority attorneys, and they just really enjoyed how we did service because our history was, we know people don't know the process. So understanding that urgency was how we were able to empathize and be able to connect that way. So I would say, a lot of where we are today is very little about transactions, but more about transformation.
Okay.
So it's less transactional and definitely a lot more transformational. It's really about how to connect with people's hearts.
See, a lot of people, they equate title to necessary paperwork. You're saying it's more than that.
Absolutely. And if I could just explain to consumers, one, this is their right to choose title. It's a RESPA Section 9 law. And no one should be forcing you to use a particular title company unless it is a commercial transaction where maybe the lender says, I want you to use a specific recognized title company, not a pseudo title company. The reason why I say that is because we are the doctors. We look up any kind of quote unquote health issues before you marry this property. So we're going to go and say, we're working with you before you purchase something, and we're going to tell you all the liens and judgments, any kind of issues that may be there.
Right.
And then we're going to say...
So you're basically running the blood panel in the doctor reference, right? And checking for level. Yeah, I totally get the analogy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And not every state requires, every state requires title insurance, but not every state is an attorney state, meaning we are always going to be needed. So if that's the case, I'm going, why aren't the consumers choosing their own title companies at this point? Why are we allowing other people to choose their mom and pop shops in the basements? This is a concern for me because I'm thinking about my parents again.
Right.
They were bullied and forced into certain things that they had no idea.
And it is, and I don't think many times maliciously, but a lot of times because title is behind the scenes, it's whoever my attorney wants to use, we use.
Absolutely.
Right. And you're saying, if you're listening out there, buyer, anyone in the transaction that needs title, to shop around.
Yeah.
And I would say to find the right company.
And there are things you should definitely look for. There are definitely things that I'm going, in our neighborhoods when we teach workshops like this, I'm like, you need to look for certain things to know you're not working with a pseudo title company.
Define that, because you've said that twice now, and I want to make sure that our audience understands what a pseudo title company is, versus the other.
Absolutely. Many years ago, we had title companies that are now underwriters. What does that mean? It is now they are very large, and because they're too big, they have agents that will almost act on their behalf. So underwriters are people like Fidelity, Chicago, Stewart, Westcor, Old Republic. These are underwriters that are almost like my parents. So if I get into a claim, you're not suing me. You're suing the paper that I served that is the underwriter, which is the underwriter, Fidelity, Westcor, whoever they are. So you're claiming against them. I am their agent, right? So when you're looking for a title company, it is so important that you're not just looking for a title company with one underwriter, because when you see that, one, the concern is if let's say your property has an issue and that underwriter cannot clear it, your title company, which is the one that you're supposed to choose, is now stuck and now your file can't close. I have all of the underwriters in the nation. So if let's say I use Fidelity for your file, and Fidelity has a little bit more conservative stance on things, they might not want to insure certain properties. I can take your file and go to another underwriter and say, hey, are you able to do this legally, to the best of your knowledge? And they say yes, then I can close your deal. But a lot of consumers do not know is when you go to a small title company in someone's basement, could be most likely someone's parents or their sibling or their spouses. It could most likely be linked to maybe an attorney. you have to be very careful on where they're coming from, how long they've been here, what experience they have, because the more underwriters they have, the more legitimacy they have for credibility in title insurance.
Sure. So when you say credibility, you're more so saying there are more options where they can make sure that you find the title insurance that's
right.
exactly right for you?
That's right.
Okay.
So when you go on a website, if you're just seeing a very generic, I think everyone knows what a generic website looks like currently, right? So you can look at, like nice photos and then like some words and then like you click here and there, but there's no pictures of, who they work with, even their staff. You look for pictures of who their staffs are. Even look for, like, my title company has in-house lawyers. We're the only one that has around 6 or 7 with 70 full-time people and 40 part-timers. So when you're looking for a title company, know that it's not just people, it's also who they have. Because I work a lot with your buyer's attorney. What makes them more comfortable is when I have an in-house counsel to speak with them in order to clear your problems, your title. So imagine we're the doctors. I want to have the best doctors on board to clear your file, right? So,
and it's not even just for the diagnosis piece. I mean, in real estate transactions, there are things that come up that were unforeseen until you really get there. I mean, again, if we're going to use medical analogies, it happens a lot of times.
Absolutely.
You go in for a procedure, and then it says, "Oh, we have this to take a look at too," and you want somebody who's well versed for the surprise.
Absolutely, and that's why with the title companies that you choose, if you're seeing 2 or 3 people, or even like 5 to 10, I get a little bit anxious because I'm going, okay, who do you have that's going to come together and talk about this file? So if I have a problem with your file, I would say to my attorneys, hey, can you guys all get together and talk about your experience, then get your teams together, work on this, and see how you can use your past experience to diagnose how to clear this issue right now.
So what are some of the dangers of maybe not having the staff on board to address a particular situation? Are we talking about it just simply doesn't get resolved? Are we talking about it getting resolved in a way that's not ideal? What are some of the concerns?
Yeah, so good, Jason. So one, it might even be that the problem was never even found because people don't know how to even look for it.
Didn't
so
even
you're
get
already
there.
thinking about how to resolve it. I'm going, there's so many instances where a title company, because of their lack of staff/knowledge, they're not even looking for the problems. I'm going, hey, if I'm seeing this issue here, most likely there's a pre-problem already. So let me go there and clear it now, or bring it up. You go to your attorney, I'll work with your lawyer, and then let's clear this together so that when you marry this property, and I like to use that language, when you marry someone, you do want to know their history. I'm being very honest.
Yeah,
right?
I would say so. Yeah, for sure.
You want to know if they got baby
that's
mamas
good life
out
advice
there.
out there.
You got to know these things.
That goes beyond real estate.
That's right. So you got to know what's happening out there before you marry, the property.
Sure.
So that's why it's important that we come in and tell you and diagnose what's going on here. So I would say even before the resolving, it's how to even find the issue so that the buyers are safe.
What are some examples of issues that could get lost in the process? I know we can't. There's probably more than we can mention, but just give us a few.
It's a very simple one. Let's say an abstract company, they're searching for documents in an accounting clerk's office, and they're noticing that there's a chain and title that's broken. If you're not looking for, let's say, A to B, A sells to B, B sells to C, and all of a sudden C sells to F, you should be asking, what's missing here?
Right.
So something like that is very simple, very simplistic words right now. But even that is
simple, but it happens, right?
Okay. All the time, all the time. But people don't talk about it because they don't know they have the right to choose title. So because we're not talked about, these issues come up, and then it's kind of like, well, who's to blame? And then they blame the title company. Then the consumer goes, who's the title company? I don't even know who they are.
What's a title company?
Right. Now it's like, well, I didn't know I paid a closing fee, the premiums, and I didn't know they were responsible. And I'm like, well, you should know. But unfortunately, people are not talking about it, because this should be a person that you can choose for when you purchase a property.
What do you think that is, though?
I would say there's a lot of reasons. How filtered am I supposed to be here now?
Look,
You've been in this industry for so long, Jason. So I'm gonna.
Listen. I say we want to be real. We want to be raw. We want our audience to understand. So I don't know what you're gonna say. So I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage. But whatever you think is appropriate, let's go there.
I think a lot of times we are in the background because we have so much influence in the closing process. And if you know that we have so much influence, why are you not choosing the title company? That's one already. If I'm going, I can't close your deal. The attorneys can't do anything. The agents can't do anything. The lenders can't do anything. It's just not going to happen. So if I'm finding a really big problem, no one is going to closing.
So they kind of, in some senses, everybody else would be best served if you would just get your job done and let us move on.
That's right.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
So I think they keep us in the back, and I'm going, okay, I feel terrible, because my story is my parents going through this. So every time I feel there's a problem with the file, I'm going, I really want to call this potential buyer and be like, I want to warn you, But it has to be conveyed to another person, and that person conveys it to the consumer.
Sure. Hence the telephone game that happens. Yeah.
So then everyone's mad at the title company because if something happens, who's going to be blamed? It's going to be me, the background guy.
Right.
Right. Because no one knows who I am. So it's a title company. No, I'm going to sit there and be like, it's not me.
So you carry a large bulk of the liability post-transaction, correct?
Right. I will always carry the liability. It won't be the agents. People will not sue the attorneys because I'm the one who is the insurer, right? So when I am issuing the paper, it doesn't say the attorney's name. It doesn't say the brokerage name. Nothing. It's me.
Why did you ever let this close, Lester?
Right.
Yeah.
So then I'm going, let me tell you the truth then.
Sure. Well.
But I don't have that platform because no one knows that we are there working with consumers. We're always kept in the back.
Got it. Wow.
Sorry, there's a lot of venting here.
No, listen.
20 years of this, and I'm like,
good.
People need to know because my parents are out there.
So, and I love how you tie in. I mean, this is really part of your life story coming into making sure that this doesn't happen for other people. So, if I'm hearing you correctly, if you're out there, you're looking to buy a home. And you get to choose, right? Now you hear this show and you said, I'm choosing my own title company. Right. I'm calling Lester.
Or whoever that's
good.
Or
whoever, right? Because we've had some good folks on here, but I love what you're doing here. By choosing your title company, you then can feel confident that says, no, I chose Liberty Land. I can engage with them and say, hey, how's it going?
That's right.
Okay.
I would love to be a Geico one day because I should be. Why am I being kept in the background when the consumers are the one who's paying my fees? You're paying for my fees.
Right.
So I should be able to say, then you should feel free to choose whoever you want. My fees is regulated. What does that mean? Premiums cannot be played with. Right? Insurance companies are regulated by the Department of Financial Services.
So it's not a scenario where it's like, oh, you want to spend 2 hours on the phone with me. Not that you want somebody spending 2 hours on the phone with you, but it's not that scenario. It's you have your fees, that's it. But you want to make sure that everything gets done to the letter.
Absolutely. And if you're looking at any fees you're paying at closing table, you're probably paying for my fees the highest. If you're buying a property right now for $1 million, your premiums $1 million with also financing, right? Your total premiums are around $4,000 to $5,000. It's going to be more than your legal fee for your attorney. It's going to be more than most of the things you're paying for.
Sure.
So if you're looking at that bill, I'm requesting that you should then say, I should choose my own title company because I'm paying so much money for that.
Right.
So if I know that the title company is charging this much amount for me, which, by the way, there are calculators out there on our websites that you can just punch in, and it'll tell you an estimated title bill, then you should be able to choose the title companies that you want because you're paying.
Right. And I think what's maybe been brought out in this episode, a lot of times, individuals in your profession will talk about survey, no survey, what happens when there's a fence, on your neighbor's line. But I think the simplicity of the message today is very profound, is that this is a very, very vital role. That it's not just a role that requires certain paperwork, but actually, would you agree that the title company is very much an advocate on your behalf?
Absolutely. Can I just say what you just said was so great? It was survey or no survey, right? Even a statement like that, that's my department. But I know somehow the attorneys are also explaining it, the agents are explaining it, and I'm the one who's reading in that survey for the consumers, but I don't have a chance to explain that.
Right.
Right. So that's really something that we are producing, but no one knows that.
Right. And to the consumer that doesn't know, is like, oh, that's just another couple $100 that I have to spend, but it's way more than that.
Right. So we are the advocates, and we should be, because we are the doctors. So if I'm looking up all of your future properties history, I am looking out for your best interest, and therefore you're paying me that premium, right? So then you should have the right to choose.
Right. Right. Well, I feel like we could dive. We could spend another. We could do 3-4 episodes, and I think at some point you should come back and let's dive in even more. But again, I think the message in this episode is clear. Title company is extremely important. Make sure that you choose the right one. And with that being said, how could the public find you and possibly choose Liberty Land?
Yeah, Jason, thank you so much, by the way, for giving us this platform. It's really cool that I get to be here. But if you will just go onto our website, llabstract.com. Everything is there. Again, look for good title companies. It doesn't have to be mine. Just look for one that you know can advocate for you.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for watching as well. If you want to follow us, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Dream Select Realty, on X at Dream Select Homes. And if you want to be part of this program, just give us an email at hometeam@dreamselectrealty.com. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time. Just remember, the dream is real.